Hi, I'm Larissa from Beekeeping Made Simple, and this video is about the Lomi bloom. I am a beekeeper. I am an okay gardener. I started gardening well before I started beekeeping. Then I had a worm bin, and then I had beehives. Beekeeping is what I really love the most, but I also love sitting next to my beehive and just watching the bees come and go and visiting all the flowers. And I love having food for pollinators. And so I have had all kinds of compost piles. I have had them outdoors and with just pallets around it. I've had the big plastic kind that you throw inside that was outdoors. I have had a worm bin inside. I have had a worm bin that was inside a garden tower outside. And I've always just struggled, both in Hawaii and Pennsylvania, with getting it to actually decompose and not having this just giant mushy mound that just sits there and aerating it. And I'm not really one to really take the pitchfork and keep aerating it. And we also never go and want to put the compost outside. Even in Hawaii, when it was warm out and sun didn't go down until 6:30, 7 o'clock in the middle of winter. So I contacted Lomi and I wanted to try out this at home, like indoor kind of composting machine. So I just pulled it out of the box and we are going to start the first load together, and then I will show you what it looks like when it's done. I will then talk about it after using it for a few weeks, and then I'll get into a little bit more my experience using other methods of compost, both indoors and outdoors, because I started out living in a small apartment in Philly and then ended up moving to Hawaii and having a larger home where I did things outside. First off, I just pulled this out of the box. This is what it looks like pulled out of the box, and I attached the cord to the back, plugged it in, and when you get this, you want to open up the lid. There is a spot right in here you fill in with some charcoal. That's one filter. And on the back, there is another spot for a filter. It comes with a little box of charcoal. You just put them in and that's it. And you're ready. So it comes with this little cheat sheet that has the things you can put into your composter. There's the go for it section. Put in a whole bunch of it. There's the things you want to put small amounts of in, and the things you never want to put in. So interestingly, one of the things in the never section is cooked potatoes. Next, you just want to figure out the mode for your Lomi. There are 3 different modes depending on what kind of compost you want to make and what you're putting into your Lomi. The first is the grow mode, and that is to create nutrient-rich compost. So that's going to be your fruits and your veggies and coffee grounds, eggshells. Now this is going to use more energy. It runs a lot longer. So your second option is the Eco Express mode. It runs for less time. It's really not going to create that super nutrient-rich compost to help grow your plants. It's more so going to just decompose all of these scraps that you have from your kitchen so that you can just throw them outside. So that's pretty much what I'm going to be doing for the most of the winter time. We just moved here, so we moved from 5,000 miles away. I had to get rid of all my plants. I couldn't bring them over to this continent, and I have nothing to really, I could start storing it up if I wanted to, but since it's November, we have a ways from when I'm going to start planting outside. So most of the time, I'm going to be going with the Eco Express mode, just for the sake of getting rid of these kitchen scraps. Their other option is the Lomi approved mode, and that's what we're going to do first here today with you guys, because your Lomi came in a bag. And this bag is made of biodegradable plastic. The Lomi approved mode is your mode for Lomi approved non-food compostable weight. So I'm just going to throw this bag in here. I'm first going to cut it up a little bit. So when you want to run your Lomi, first you take the bucket out and you're going to put your material in. And only 10% of your bucket should be the non-food waste. It says close the lid. You want to line up the arrows so that you lock it. just 2 weeks ago, my husband and dad were laughing at me. My husband gave me his phone to take some pictures of my son in his Halloween parade. And while holding his phone for less than 10 minutes, I broke the case, this like clip thing on the back. I wasn't even playing with it. I was just holding it, and I guess I just pushed it too far when I was trying to close it. My dad and my husband were like commiserating over how easily I break almost everything. My dad's happy that now there's someone else to help fix all the things that I break. So there's just one button here. Hold it for 2 seconds and it goes to the Lomi approved mode. Push it and hold it in for another 2 seconds. It will go to the grow mode. Push it in and hold it for another 2 seconds. It will go to Eco Express mode. Okay, it's been 10 days of me using this. I have run 5 cycles in the last 10 days, and I have to say, this thing is great. I have read mixed reviews about this, but this is exactly what it claims to be, which is a way to compost your food and your household materials very quickly and very easily. I ran the Eco Express mode. That one takes 4 to 5 hours. It turns it into material that you can just throw in your yard. I've read some reviews where people said that it was running for like 10, 12 hours. The only thing I can think of that people are seeing happen is that there are sensors in this. And so I'm not sure if it is sensing that the materials aren't mushy enough, and so it's continuing to run and run and run until it is at the proper consistency and then stopping. If that is something that you're seeing, then what they do tell you that there are certain materials you want to chop up smaller. That would be kale stems, flower stems, the stalk of your broccoli, asparagus stems. You want those to be smaller. Banana peels, the eggshells and the fruits and vegetables that are softer, those things you can just throw in. So if you are finding that it's taking longer, you might want to try chopping up your materials a little bit smaller. The other 2 modes, they say that it will take about 8 hours, and that's what I found. It was about 8 or 9 hours. The third setting that you have also takes about 8 hours, and that's because that's the grow mode. And that is probably heating it up at a lower temperature, I'm guessing, because it's to produce compost in the true term so that you can put it in your plants, and you're adding nutrients naturally to your plants. So that's what I like about this. I have the room in my kitchen for it. I like that we don't have to go run out to the compost. I like that I'm not putting food scraps outside because we had mongoose, wild boars, rats, mice, tons of cockroaches all over that compost. I always had difficulty aerating it. I never kept on top of it, and you have to add so much brown material when composting properly. So when you have an outdoor compost, it's a lot more work, and it's difficult to get it to heat up to the point that it's actually going to decompose your material before your kids are ready to go off to college. So that's why I love the Lomi. You put your kitchen scraps in there and you can just throw them out in the yard. You're not throwing them in the trash can. It is not going to take your yard waste. You're not going to be able to throw all your leaves from your front yard and all of your cardboard in here. This container, although it's perfect size for a couple days worth of compost for a family that's 2 to 4 people. So this is the max fill line, and that's as high as you want to fill it. I still have an outdoor compost, but that's where we're just putting our yard waste and we're putting our leaves, and it's really just a place to stash all that stuff before we take it to the green waste. Another great thing about the Lomi is you can put a small amount of meat scraps, fish bones, fish, small amount of dairy products, not milk, but you don't want to put any liquids in there. And that's great as well, because when you throw them in the trash, even that tiny little bit of meat scraps can really make your trash can stink. If you have a really great garbage disposal, then something like this might not be worthwhile for you. You're just throwing everything down a garbage disposal. But if you're like us, we lived in a home that had a cesspool. And so in that case, you don't want to be throwing a ton of stuff down your garbage disposal, or else it is going to get filled up really fast. The downside to this is that it does use electricity. It is pretty large, so if you don't have that extra space in your kitchen for it, then you're going to have to find somewhere else to stash it, and you're going to have to put it out on a big open space in your kitchen counter when you want to run it. And it's not cheap. It's great for people that are, 2, 4, 6 people in the family, and you do not want to throw your food waste into the trash. It is great for people who have tried an outdoor compost and they just didn't keep on top of it like me, and weren't turning it to the point that they could really get anything to decompose. People who have issues with their pets, or rats and insects and other small mammals getting into your compost and so can't put it outside. Or for people that don't have that outside space to have a compost. It is not for people that don't have the kitchen space to hold this. And it's not for people, most importantly, that want something to just do everything for them. There is that extra step to chop up some of those harder materials into smaller pieces. There's still that extra step to hold on to the stuff from your dinner until this thing is filled the next day so that you can run it. You still have to turn it on. You still should be holding onto your materials in a container and then putting it in here when you're ready to run it. It's not magic, and it's also not huge. So if you're looking for something to also throw your yard waste into and all of your cardboard and stuff, this is not your solution. It's too small. But overall, this is a great machine. It works exactly how it says it works and does exactly what it claims to do. I had a worm bin in my house. It was a makeshift worm bin that I made myself, so it was just like a food grade Tupperware bin that I put holes into. And now that is the best when it comes to producing compost. And the worms will decompose that, eat it up really fast. It also produces that tea that you can put in your indoor plants. The downside to those is that they can attract flies, and you really want somewhere like an unfinished basement or something to put that in. It's not ideal for small apartments. Some people will keep it under the kitchen sink, but it really can attract flies pretty fast. And again, this is similar to this, where you're not going to be throwing in a ton of yard waste and cardboard and stuff, just enough to a little bit more cardboard to add that brown material and to soak up some of the liquid. I've had outdoor compost. I had the one that looked like pretty much a big trash can just turned upside down, and there was a lid on the top. Now that keeps the food safe from animals eating it, but you can't turn it, so you can't add air to it, and so the food, it just takes forever to decompose in there. And since you have to add so much brown material to your food waste, it gets filled up really fast. And then you're going to need another one, because that one's not going to be decomposed to the point that you can take it all out before you're going to need another one. You're also not going to want to put any kind of dairy or animal products in those outdoor composts, from what I've been told anyway. And I've always stayed away from that as well. I've never had a compost that was on legs and it was like a barrel that you could turn. Friends of mine did, and it was just 2 of them, and they ended up needing 2 of them, because even though you can turn it to add air, they would fill it up pretty fast, because again, you need a whole lot of brown materials to add to your food waste. And so they do get filled up pretty fast, and you're going to need another one. So that is my review of the Lomi. As the months will go by, I will add into the comments and pin it to the top how it is going over the months and how it is faring, being used every other night. If you have another brand of compost, or if you have one of these and have a different experience or a similar experience, please leave that in the comments, because that is what makes these videos really helpful. It's not just hearing one person's perspective and experience, but being able to read everyone's experiences from all over and their unique situation, so that we can all work together to learn from each other. See you next time. And don't forget, there's the coupon code and a link to the Lomi website in the video description so that you can get a discount. Thanks for watching. See you next time.